Hey, this is Seth Parnell, the minister at the Portia Church of Christ, and this is episode 101 of the Midweek Bible Study. Hope that you're doing well. Hope everything is going your way. We appreciate you being here on this Thursday night as we're for another Bible study, for another look at God's Word. It'll probably be a shorter episode tonight, but still we're going to look at something that hopefully can benefit us and do us some good. We always want to let you know that if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, then please feel free to send those our way. We would love to look at those and love to talk to you about it. If you have any questions, if you have any misunderstandings, then we would love to talk to you about it. Or if you're someone who is in the Portia area, then I encourage you to stop by and see us sometime. We would love to see you. We would love to worship with you. We are located at 307 South Jackson Street in Portia, Arkansas. Right now, we are meeting at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, 10 o'clock for class, 11 for worship. On Sunday night, we are meeting at 5 o'clock, and this Sunday night, we're having our fellowship meal. And so if you want something to eat, you should come by and see us. It'd be a good time to stop by and visit us at Portia. But we're meeting at 5 o'clock, and then at Wednesday is 6 o'clock. And so if you're in the area, I hope you can come see us sometime. We would love to talk with you and to worship with you and see some fellow brothers and sisters here in Christ. And so know that that's available to you as well. But tonight we are taking a look at Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3. It's a story that's probably pretty familiar with you. It's probably something that is has been talked about quite a bit. One that you're familiar with. And the entire chapter has to do with an encounter that a man by the name of Moses has with a burning bush, with a plant that is on fire. Kind of a bizarre story when you take a look at it on the surface, but one that sets the stage for some pretty incredible things. And so, if you take a look at Exodus chapter 3, we're going to see just how this story gets started. Starting in verse 1. Here it says, "Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness, and he came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out in the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. When the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am." And so this is the beginning of the story. And I don't know about you, but one of when I remember the story, and this is something that's taught in Bible school, it's something that is preached about a lot. But I always got the sense that the bush was either the act of God or it was something of that sort. But it says here that an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out in the midst of the bush. And so it was the angel was the one that started this flaming bush that we had. And And so for some reason, I always overlooked that. I always, kind of maybe read over that, and I missed the role that the angel plays in this story. But it's right there, and it's right there in verse 2. And so this angel, appears to Moses, and out of basically out of nowhere, while he's out, tending to his sheep. It says he's keeping the flock. He's keeping, the sheep of his father-in-law Jethro, who was the priest of Midian. And uh, Moses says, he basically says, I've got to see this. I've got to go and see this great sight, or what in the world is going on here, because a plant that is on fire, and it doesn't burn up, that defies your natural understanding of the world. And so Moses said, I had to see this. And so he indeed goes up in order to see it. It's good to have Kathy Davis here with us. It's good to have you here. I hope that you are doing well. It's good to see you here tonight. And we also got Glenda Johnson as well. Hope you're doing good as well, and hope everything is going your way. It's good to have you guys here tonight. But Moses, he comes up, and he's someone who just wants to investigate, just wants to see, what is going on here. What is the source of this great sight. And this is going to be a very pivotal point in the story of Moses. He's going to be someone who this conversation that is about to happen is going to completely turn his life around. It's going to completely, kind of diverge, the path of his life. There are some events in a person's life, that may cause them to go one direction or cause them to go another direction. But this was one of those kind of, crossroad moments for Moses. He was someone who, whether he agreed to this or didn't agree to this, it was going to change his life. And he was going to have to deal with that. And so, as we see here, if you go down to down through verses 5 and following, it says, "Then he said, 'Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground.' And he said, 'I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.' And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And the Lord said, 'I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and I've heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and I've come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them up out of the land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey. It's the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites.'" And he'll go on to name several other nations of people, and to say, what they are, the plan that he has for Israel. But it's interesting when you look at, when Moses, he goes up here, and this angel appears to him in flaming fire in this bush that doesn't burn up. And Moses comes up here just to look what it is, and he finds himself in a conversation with God himself, with someone who he probably had no idea this was going to happen. But yet God tells him, "Take off your shoes, for you are standing on holy ground." Because we know where God is, that is a place, that is, holy. That is a place that is designated, as holy. And so the presence of God, did that. And so Moses, he had to take off his shoes, and he put a cover over his face. He says he hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. You see, throughout this conversation that Moses has, he's going to be someone that is going to have a lot of doubts. He's going to listen to what God has to say to him. As we read there in the last part, God is going to kind of recruit him. He's going to be someone who is going to kind of enlist him in order to go and free the people of Israel. He's going to go out and try to take them from the land of Egypt and take them to the promised land, this land that is flowing with milk and honey. And Moses, he feels, inadequate. He feels like he doesn't have, what it takes in order to accomplish this. He says, I can't. He starts making excuses. Later on, he'll say, I'm not eloquent, or I can't, speak good, or it's just not something for me. The confidence in his ability to do this, and the confidence, that God had in him to do this, were on two very different levels. And Moses, he was someone who had a lot of doubts about what God wanted him to do. But yet, when you look at verse 6 here, when you look at, how Moses, behaves in this situation, even though he doubted what God wanted him to do, he was still very respectful. He was still someone who respected God, as who he is. And I think that that's important. Sometimes we go through life, and there are some things where we don't understand, why they happen. We don't understand why things, turn out that way. Sometimes we don't understand why we are called to do, certain things. But if we follow the example of Moses here, even when we have those doubts, and even when we have those times where we don't understand, we still respect God for who He is. We still show that respect when we are someone who addresses Him, or whether we are talking about Him. We're still someone who carries Him, who speaks about Him as as our Father, as the God, the Creator of the universe, the one true God. We still respect Him, as that. And I think that that's an important lesson for us to learn, and as individuals, is to, even though we may not understand why, even though we may not, have a complete and full rational, plan as to why, God wants us to do things a certain way, we still respect Him, and we still respect the decisions that He makes, and we're someone who seeks to be obedient, to Him. And I think that's an important example that Moses puts forth, because it's interesting if you look at this story. God actually refers to Himself with three different names. There's three different names that He refers to Himself, as we see here in verse 6. He says, and He said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. All of Israel was familiar with who Abraham was, with who Isaac was, who Jacob was, and that was their ancestors. They were kind of the pillars, kind of the pantheon of respectful people in Israel. That was who these people were, and they they were familiar with them. So when He says, I am the God who took care of Abraham and took care of these individuals, and this is someone who Moses knows exactly who he's talking to then. And but he also refers to himself, as when you look, I believe it's up here. Actually, it's down further here. If you look at, let's see here. Yeah, in verse 13, it says, Then Moses, said to God, If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, What is His name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And He said, Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. And so He calls Him, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the God, of Abraham. He calls Him. He says, I am who I am. And that's one of the biggest names for God that you'll see continue to be used even throughout even into the New Testament. The name I am is used for God a lot. And so he refers to Him in that way. He says, I am. And down in, when he gets to the bottom, when he's talking about his interaction with Pharaoh, if you look at verse 18 here in the middle, it says, the Lord, and they will listen to your voice, and you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt and say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now, please let us go a 3 days journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. And so it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am who I am, and the God of the Hebrews are three different names in which God gives to Moses, in this case. And so it's interesting that there's three different ways in order to, and that God kind of refers to himself, and that he puts forth, and that's and Moses is given specific instruction on what to do, on how to go to these people. Eventually, he's told to take Aaron with him because Aaron is someone who is eloquent. He's someone who could speak maybe better than Moses could, and so he was someone who was going to go along with Moses, even though Aaron wasn't there. He didn't see the burning bush, but yet he was going to be recruited, for this purpose, as well. And which is something that will be another big influence when you look at the Exodus, when you look at the events that are going to transpire after this. That's going to be another big happening. But God is someone who often proves that he is who he says he is. Like that name, I am who I am. That's a powerful name when you think about it. He says, I am simply I am. God was able to create a burning bush that did not burn up, and that amazed Moses. That was something that astounded him. But God is someone who proves that he has power over his entire creation. He created it, and he has the power over it. And this is going to continue even into the 10 plagues, when he is going to demonstrate his power and his authority over Egypt and over their gods, and say, these things are, I have the authority over these things. He's going to change their water, change their weather, be someone who works with their animals and cause insects to come upon them, and disease. All these things he's going to prove that he has the power to change over this, and which is really something when you think about it. It's something that God has that ability. He has that that authority, and still he's someone who heard the people cry from Israel, who heard their cry when they were in bondage. And that's that is it's also interesting when you think about as powerful as he is and as big as he is, and he still hears the cries of people. He still hears and what we have to say. That's something that is pretty amazing as well. It's good to have Ted Knight here with us. I hope that you are doing well. It's good to hear from you. I hope that best wishes to you, as well. It's good to see you here tonight. But Moses is, he's given this task, and he's given he's given this ability, and he's given this mission in order to go to Israel, go to the land of Egypt, and bring Israel out of Egypt. And this is not going to be an easy process. It's not going to be something that is very simple. But we know, if you read all the events that take place from the time in which they leave Egypt to the time when they actually enter the promised land, it's a lot. And it stresses Moses as something that causes him a lot of grief, because they don't get very far. They don't even get to past the Red Sea before the people start to kind of complain against them, and they start to say, well, you just brought us out here in order to be killed. And he had a lot to deal with. This was not something that was easy. But sometimes, God calls us to do things that are not easy. Sometimes he calls us to do things that are not the most convenient thing, as you might say. But he is someone who, God called him and told him that this is what I need you to do. This is what I need you. This is where I need you to go. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. But I know you have the strength to do it. Last night in our Devo at Portia, we talked about 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 13, where he says there is no temptation that can that is really too powerful for you. There's nothing that can be overwhelm you, but God always provides you a way, of escape. That's paraphrasing, of course. But even though we may find, difficult times in life, we may find difficult things to go through, God is someone who always gives us what we need in order to succeed. He always gives us the tools that we need in order to make this possible, in order to be successful at what He has called us, to do. And He never calls us to do something that is impossible. He never calls us to do something that is, out of our reach. But sometimes He does call us to do difficult things or to go through difficult, situations. But we know that He can strengthen us. He can provide us with what we need in order to get through. And that's comforting to know that it's not just us out there, that it's not just, people that we're on our own, that we're, you know, that we're if we get lost, we have no one to turn to, because God, He's always there. He gives us, what we need to do. And so that can be comforting for us, and that can give us inspiration in order to go forward and to be His children, to be someone who does glorify Him in what we do. And there's a lot more that we could talk about, with this story. We barely even scratched the surface of this, so far. As I said, this is something that a lot of sermons have been, preached on. This is something that a lot of Bible classes have been taught on, because it is a fantastic story, and it plays such a pivotal role, as we said, in the direction of Moses' life, in the direction of the Israelite, people. It all started there at a burning bush. Sometimes the grandest things, sometimes the biggest things have very simple beginnings, have very easy beginnings. And this was the case, with this. Of course, we know the story of Moses goes back beyond this, but this was where he was first told, you're going to Egypt, you're going to free his people. And so never mistake something that is simple for being the start of something, that is great. Someone who is, baptized, someone who is immersed in water, they go down and then they come up, pretty simple. Nothing really, complicated about that. But when a person, does that, they begin a whole new life. They begin a whole new life as a Christian, as someone who is free from sin. Such a simple thing can lead to such a grand, outcome. That's pretty special to look at. But as we said before, this was going to be a shorter episode than usual tonight, but hope this is something that's been of benefit to you, and I hope it has been something that has maybe helped you think on some things. And if you have any thoughts on the story, please feel free to send them my way. Tell me what do you think of this story? What are some lessons that you gather from this encounter that Moses has with the burning bush? It's definitely a dynamic story. It's one that gets our attention, but it's one that I think it plays a big, like I said, a big role in the story. So let me know what you think. We'll be back here next Thursday night for another episode at 7:00, and so we hope you can join us then. And until then, we hope you have a wonderful week. We hope that you can go out and be the light of the world and glorify God in everything that you do. We'll catch you next time.